Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here, the What a Deck profile for the Phantasm Spiral Dragon Stun deck. I'm just going to go through everything in here, and then I'll explain how it works. So for monsters, we've got 2 of the Phantasm Spiral Dragon, 1 Gene Warped Warwolf, 3 Phantom Griffin, and 3 Megalomasher X. Our spells are 3 Painful Decision, 3 Card of Demise, 3 Terraforming, 3 Pot of Duality, 3 Pacifist, the Phantom City, and 1 each of all the Phantasm Spiral equip cards, which are Wave, Crash, and Grip. Our traps are 3 Phantasm Spiral Battle, 3 Phantasm Spiral Power, 3 Paleozoic Hallucinogenica, 3 Paleozoic Candida, and 1 Jar of Avarice. The extra deck is 1 Hope Harbinger, 1 Lancelot, Dark Knight of the Underworld, 1 Utopia the Lightning, 1 Gagagigo the Risen, 1 Bahamut Shark, Gem Knight Pearl, Regular Utopia, Silent Honor Arc, Heartland Draco, Castell, Lightning Chidori, Gagaga Cowboy, Paleozoic Anomacalaris, Totally Awesome, and Paleozoic Opabinia. The side deck I'll go over in a moment. So as I said, this is a stun deck, which means it relies mostly on disrupting your opponent. You're going to stop them from doing things for a turn or two, which you use to then attack for massive amounts of damage. The 2 main key cards we're using in this deck that you can't really use in other decks are the Phantasm Spiral Battle and the Phantasm Spiral Power. They both start off the same way, that you can only activate them if all the monsters you control are normal monsters, minimum of 1. And if Umi is on the field, you can activate this card from your hand. Phantasm Spiral Power is target an effect monster your opponent controls. Till the end of the turn, it loses 1,000 attack and defense. Also, its effects are negated. Spiral Battle, meanwhile, is just target a card on the field and destroy that card. Both of these are searchable with Pacifist, which is your field spell. This is, you cannot normal summon or special summon effect monsters the turn you activate this card, even if this card leaves the field. And more importantly, once per turn, if you normal or special summon exactly 1 normal monster, you can add a Phantasm Spiral card from your deck to your hand. So if you get your field spell and you normal summon any of your normal monsters, you're going to be able to add any of these traps as well as your equip cards, which I'll get to in a moment. In addition, this card says, if your opponent activates a card or effect except during the damage step, and you control no tokens, you could special summon a Phantasm Spiral token, which has 2,000 attack, 2,000 defense, and it counts as a normal monster. So what that means is during your opponent's turn, when they activate an effect, you get a token, and then you're going to be able to search again. And because this counts as Umi, and because the token and all your other monsters in here are normal monsters, you're going to be able to activate these from your hand. In addition, we're playing Card of Demise, kind of a cheap card, not something I normally like to use, but it's really effective in this deck. You draw until you have 3 cards in your hand, but for the rest of this turn, your opponent takes no damage, you can't special summon, and you must send all cards in your hand to the graveyard at the end of the phase. Fortunately, we usually want to go first, and if you get this first, it's really good, because then the battle damage aspect doesn't really matter. We don't really special summon, except when we battle, which I'll get to again when we get to the equip cards. It's mostly normal monsters, which you want to normal summon to get your search. And then most of the deck is spells and traps, so no matter what you're going to get, you can just set everything in your hand, normal summon your 1 monster, and then Card of Demise to get even more traps. Same thing with Pot of Duality. This is excavate 3 cards from your deck, add 1 to your hand, shuffle the rest back into your deck. You can't special summon for the rest of the turn. Really good, especially first turn, for either getting the Pacifist or getting the normal monster you need to complete the combo. Or if you already have both, you could just add more traps to your hand, or maybe even your Cards of Demise. Now, in addition to using the Phantasm Spiral traps for disruption, we've also got the 2 Paleozoic cards. Hallucinogenica can target a face-up monster, and its attack and defense become half until the end of the turn. And then Candida can just flip a monster your opponent controls into face-down defense position. Both of these are really good for getting rid of your opponent's monsters or making them weak to our 2,000 attack point beaters. But they also help out with these equip cards, which I'll actually get to. We're playing 1 each of them just because you could search them with Pacifist, and you don't really want them first turn for the most part. They're better once you can attack with them, because they all have this effect that after the monster does something, either attacks or does battle damage or destroys a monster by battle, you could special summon this Phantasm Spiral Dragon from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and then equip it with that card, which is how you can do so much massive amounts of damage. Not only do we have these 2,000 beat sticks, we're preventing our opponent from summoning anything, or we're having their attack or lowering their attack, and then you can attack directly with these 2,000s, plus usually summon this in the battle phase and attack for even more. To get specific though, Spiral Wave, probably the most defensive one. This is the equip monster. The first time it would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not. At the end of the battle phase, if the equip monster battled, you could summon the Phantasm Spiral Dragon, equip it, And then if your opponent has any cards, they have to discard one. Really good kind of defensive card. If you have to get an equip card first turn, I'd go with this one since it prevents your monster from being destroyed. The problem with it is that it only activates at the end of the battle phase, so you can't attack with Phantasm Spiral Dragon in the battle phase. These other two you can. Spiral Crash lets your monster do piercing damage, lets you special summon the Phantasm Spiral Dragon just by inflicting damage, so this works even with direct attacks. And then once you do summon it, you can change one attack position monster your opponent controls to defense position, which helps out with the piercing, especially since this is going to be on your 2900 beater. Finally, Spiral Grip just gives the monster 500 attack, and if it destroys a monster, not only can you summon your Phantasm Spiral Dragon, but you can inflict 1000 damage to your opponent, so it's extra burn damage, but it only works if your opponent has a monster. So it's basically attack boost, piercing damage, or being able to survive for a turn. Whichever one you need, you search that one out. We're playing one copy extra of each in the side deck, just in case you run into a situation or a deck where you want to use one in particular, you could swap it out and have extra chances of grabbing it. In addition, I would actually say this is sort of your tech slot with the deck. If you wanted to change anything, you don't actually need these. You could do a pretty effective beatdown and stun just with the traps. You could replace these out with Solemn Strikes or more Paleozoics just to make your deck even more mean, prevent your opponent from doing anything, and just beat them down with 2000 attack point monsters. Speaking of which, I should mention the monsters. They're all normal monsters because you need them in order to activate their effects. I found that playing 7 of them was the best ratio, where you'd normally get one each turn without having your hand too flooded by them. You can really pick, there's a lot of different monsters with 2000 attack. The only reason I picked these two in particular was because with the 2 wind monsters, you had a chance to make Lightning Chidori, and with the 2 water monsters, you could make Bahamut Shark and then go into Tree Toad. The Gene Warp Werewolf was just the extra one. We're playing 2 Phantasm Spiral Dragons just in case one gets banished. You could play 1 or even 3 if you want to. It too is just a normal monster, you just beat down with it. And then the only other thing in this deck I didn't mention are the Painful Decision, which is just send 1 level 4 normal monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, add 1 card with the same name from your deck to your hand. This will let you search out your normal monsters without bricking your hand in the same way that just having 3 extra monsters in here would do. You can always set this, and then activate your Card of Demise, and then activate it later. And then we've also got the 1 Jar of Avarice, which is just target 5 cards in your graveyard, accept itself, shuffle them into the deck, draw 1 card. This can be pretty good just against certain decks. I find True Kings in particular can take a lot of destruction. You can often go through all 3 of your spiral battles and your spiral powers against them. So instead of running out, we have this 1 extra trap that's just going to let you recycle them and keep searching things with Pacifist. As for the extra deck, it's mostly just a toolbox. We're playing a couple rank 8s in case you get both your Phantasm Spiral Dragons out and you still haven't won yet. It never hurts to have extra options in the extra deck. Likewise, the rest of this is a toolbox. You can play whatever you want, really. The only really standouts, like I said, were Lightning Chidori and Bahamut Shark, which you can make with these 2 in particular. We're also playing 2 non-effect monsters in the form of Gem Knight Pearl and Gagagago the Risen. You can summon these even if you've used Pacifist, which has come in handy just occasionally. Again, it's just in case shit happens sort of cards. And then we've got a couple level 2s for your Paleozoics. You can, of course, summon Tree Toad with your Bahamut Shark, but you can also summon it with your Paleozoics. I assume everyone's familiar with them, but just in case, if either player activates a trap, and these are in your graveyard, you could special summon them from your graveyard as monsters. They have 1200 attack, and more importantly, they're normal monsters, so they won't mess with Pacifist, and you can actually equip them with the equip cards if need be, if you can have your opponent's attack or lower their monsters or something like that. These can actually be useful for getting out your Phantasm Spiral Dragons. Speaking of which, I actually forgot to mention these 2 trap cards, the Phantasm Spiral ones, also have effects in the graveyard. Phantasm Spiral Battle, you can banish it from the graveyard to target a normal monster and equip all the Phantasm Spiral equip cards to it. And with Spiral Power, you can target a normal monster, banish this from the graveyard, and then equip one of your equip spells from either your graveyard or your hand to that monster, which can actually be pretty useful, especially with Spiral Wave, if they've already declared their attack by either moving this to the monster they attacked or putting this onto it from the graveyard. Then whatever they attack is not going to be destroyed, and at the end of the battle phase, you're going to be able to summon out your Phantasm Spiral Dragon. And just in general, if they're going to destroy one of your monsters, you can use this to shift the equip cards to another monster so you don't lose them entirely. That just brings us to the side deck. Like I said, Solemn Strikes. If you wanted to make this even more mean, you could take out the equip cards. You could even take out the Paleozoics because they're a little slow in some ways, especially this one that lowers attack. This is more for the beatdown. If you just wanted to be completely shut down your opponent, that would probably be better. Likewise, you could add in other Paleozoics. Oleanades destroys a spell trap, so against Pendulum decks or other decks with a lot of spell traps like Dark Magicians, this can be really good. Dionysus can target a face-up card and banish it. You have to discard a card, which you don't really want to do in this deck, but oftentimes you'll have an extra card that you're going to discard because of Demise anyway, so you can use that with this. And then finally, Heat Wave, a really, really cheap card. It can only be activated at the start of main phase 1. Neither player can normal summon or special summon an effect monster until your next draw phase. I found it was pretty good, but it didn't shut down people enough. But you could definitely run it in this because we only run normal monsters. I almost wish that I hadn't, but I kind of forgot about it until I was already built and tested the deck quite a lot. So definitely try to mess with that if you're going to try this deck on your own. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. It's a little bit more competitive than my usual stuff, kind of a little try-hardy. Not really a fan of these Card of Demise, but I'm trying out something new. Hopefully you enjoy. Next time, I have no idea what I'm doing, so it'll be a surprise. Until then, good luck and have fun.